From the creators of the Wife Wednesday Radio Network and Lead Up Studios, this is Nerd Questing with Cena.
Once upon a time in a podcast far, far away, there was a lady who talked a lot about nerdy subjects, and that lady is me. Salutations. I'm Cena from the Wife Wednesday Radio Network, and this is a quest deep into my mind. So this week, my listeners, I want you to imagine you're sitting in a big castle. You're in this library. There's books and the smell of old books are surrounding you. There's a big picture window that overlooks like a river landscape. So the water's not too close to the castle, but you're looking out and down at the river. It's peace all around you. And like I said, it's kind of a rainy day. You're happy to be inside. And at this big window, there's a bench seat. And on that bench seat is myself and my companion today, my guest on the show, my sister Therese. Say hello.
Hi there.
All right. So, Therese.
Yes.
Nerd Questing is still in its early development. And so far, it's only been a D&D podcast. But along those lines, you've been with me through most of my D&D journey, or at least my beginning D&D journey. And then obviously as my sister, you and I spent a lot of time together. We played make-believe. We grew up together making stories. My question, I guess I'll start off with this, a heavier question. How do you think that shaped you as a person you are today?
Ooh. Oh boy. That is a pretty deep question. Well, it certainly kept my love of fantasy alive. Like if I was given a choice between like stay here in today's world or push button and go to Middle Earth or Hogwarts, you best believe I'd be slamming that button.
Yeah.
And
Where is this red button?
give me the button. Like screw living in the real world. I want to go on adventures.
Sorry, honey, I'm going to Hogwarts. Bye.
Goodbye. I'm going to go destroy the One Ring.
Oh my gosh. So I had actually gotten ahead of myself. I guess I wanted to ask you, what started your love of fantasy?
Well, quite clearly the fact that our parents read us fantasy novels when we were children.
That is true.
And probably like the most standout one from childhood is St. George and the Dragon. Especially because it does touch on the Fey world and the Fairy Queen and St. George serving the Fairy Queen.
This is not what I expected you to say. This is so much better. I love it.
You expected Lord of the Rings, right?
Either Lord of the Rings or Terry Pratchett.
Well, we're talking like early childhood. Like, I loved that St. George and the Dragon book so much that Mom and Dad ended up having to buy it for me.
Literally from the library. The copy you have is from the library.
It is, because I would always go and renew it. That was the one book I always wanted to have. And then, of course, as we got older, Mom and Dad, of course, did read The Lord of the Rings to us, The Hobbit, the whole trilogy. Like, we grew up with that. Then when Harry Potter first started coming out, and it was the very big controversial thing for us being Catholic.
Yeah.
Like, there were people who were for it, people who were against it, and Mom and Dad went, we're going to read it and make our own opinion.
And it was the best thing ever.
Best thing ever. Which is probably why, people are sometimes surprised when I say, oh, I'm Catholic, but I'm fully supportive of like the whole Wiccan witchcraft. I don't see witchcraft as evil. I don't see it as devil worship. Like, hello, you do you. There's a huge difference between worshiping spirits and energy and worshiping the devil.
Huge
Difference. Very big difference. And then, of course, you know, as we got older, then Mom and Dad introduced us to Terry Pratchett. And,
just ran away with that one.
yeah,
The Discworld series on point.
so much. It's like I have reread the Discworld series more than I've reread Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. That is how much I enjoy Discworld. And it's because of the style of writing from Terry Pratchett.
I think I've reread more of
Black Jewels.
well, the Black Jewels trilogy is my ish, but out of those, I have reread the Terry Pratchett books more than I have Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, and I have read Harry Potter multiple times. I've only read the Lord of the Rings once.
Yeah.
And with the Lord of the Rings, I love the story and the concept. It's just a drier read.
It really is. And it's because of the time period it was written in.
Oh, agreed.
It was not written with Terry Pratchett's flair.
So, being that these fantasy verses were part of your foundation and everything, bringing us back to what I wanted to talk about is we're going to talk about my D&D session, obviously. So why don't you tell us about your character? I want you to paint the physical version of him. Tell us what he looks like, and then give us a little bit about him. You don't have to give his full life story.
Yeah.
Just tell us about Eric.
All right. Eric is about 5'10", thin, handsome, dark brown hair, almost black, pale blue-green eyes.
What race is he?
He's a half-elf.
Okay.
Half-elf, half-human. And he's kind of got like a very strong patriarchal foundation of the family. Like, not the troublesome patriarchal, but just his family was founded by the great patriarch. That's part of his backstory. He's like the great grandson of the founding father for his family, who set up a city. And he's also got the prophecy.
He's a noble.
He's a noble. He's also got the prophecy of being the seventh son of a seventh son of a seventh son of a seventh son, etc., for how many generations? I can't remember that I set up. And his whole family is mostly paladins and clerics and bards. Like, think
a paladin is a holy warrior for anyone who's
unsure.
Not.
And clerics are holy healers.
Yes, also warriors. But he took a completely different step, and it's because of his mother's side of the family that he became a wizard. So, like... You're a wizard, Eric.
A what?
A wizard.
It all makes sense. But he dresses, modestly,
but of nice quality.
He doesn't like to flaunt that he's of noble background, because he's a scholar. He loves studying. Like, if you were to take him from this fantasy world, like, even though he's 47, he's really more the equivalent of like a senior in college, studying like history, science, philosophy, arcana, magic, the magic equivalents. And
he's a wizard class.
He loves to study. One of his big flaws is that while everyone's running away from a big monster, he's sitting there drawing sketches of it.
And also, for people listening, there are many magic backgrounds in Dungeons and Dragons, and if you choose a wizard as your class, that means you gain your powers by study.
Yes.
So it's a devotion versus an innate ability.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, all right. What do you think one of your favorite things? What was one of the favorite things that has happened in one of our sessions? Or what is one of your favorite things?
There's a couple. One of my favorite arcs was Iggy's mom.
Iggy's mom has got it going on.
Yes, like that was hysterical. But like for character development was realizing that Eric is actually very naive about the world and still understanding.
Lived a life of privilege for a long time.
Yes, lived a sheltered life of peace where everything can be solved and properly resolved in courts and trial by jury and due process and all these things. So
and the world's not always that way.
And the world is not that way, especially because Prince Odo is a vengeance paladin. So for those of you who don't know, a vengeance paladin often plays judge, jury, and executioner. And our last campaign, Eric was kind of having like a little bit of like, whoa, wait a minute. What are you guys doing? There's processes that we have to go through for dealing with a very bad woman. And, Eric accidentally, not accidentally, he showed just how naive he was of the real world, that beyond the gilded cities that he's grown up in and the sheltered schools he's gone to, the world is far darker. And Odo showed him the evidence of the crimes that this woman had committed, and he threw up.
Yes, I loved that.
Like, he threw up and was like, holy crap. And for a little bit, I was kind of scared that I was going to chase Odo off, and I was like, no, that's not what I want to do. That is not what I want to do, and I gotta learn as Eric that what I'm thinking for right and wrong and due process, it doesn't always work.
No, it doesn't.
And so, like, I wrote an actual diary entry post that campaign because it was like, holy crap, Eric's coming to the realization that, things aren't so black and white. And he's been so naive and thinking that, the reason he's been sent on this mission that he's on was because the princess is trying to teach him, if you're going to be my court wizard, you have to understand that the world doesn't always work the way you think the books make them work. And so he's thinking like, okay, maybe that's why maybe she sent Odo to teach me that lesson, that sometimes you have to be judge, jury, and executioner.
That sometimes justice is not kind, that it must be swift.
Yes, that justice must be to trust the evidence of eyes and ears. Like I don't know where me as the player was, but she was admitting her guilt the entire time, and I don't know why my first thought was like, wait a minute, let's save her and try to find out more.
Because Eric's naive.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm going to segue into this next question, and you've kind of already been explaining it, is what do you think the biggest challenge your character has faced? And then I guess you as the player, I would say a lot of the times, just from the DM perspective, getting everyone to separate what player would do versus what character would do. Yeah. What does character know? Like, sure, the player knows a lot more. Mm-hmm. What does the character know? What would the character do? So what do you think your absolute biggest challenge is as a character and as a player?
As a player, it's definitely separating what I personally know
meta knowledge.
The meta knowledge versus what Eric would know. And as Eric, it's definitely the we don't always, it's not a good guy, bad guy kind of situation. You can't save everyone. And even though some people need to be brought forth and, full justice of the law, sometimes that's the justice of the law is the law that you deal with right then and there. At least in this wonderful
fantasy world. Yes.
Yeah.
So, along those lines, what is your character's ultimate goal?
It's the base goal that he's kind of got right now is he's on the mission from the princess as the future, hoping to become a court wizard, her court wizard. He's still studying, he's still learning, but along the ways they have some fun encounters. They run into attractive people and and this is where
you're all a bunch of thirsty hoes.
yeah, we are. But something else to remember is that Eric has been, like, the character Eric, especially for how I'm playing him, has actually been with us since we were very young.
Yes.
Like, so Eric has like a whole story and a love interest from when Cena and I don't know why
would make stories.
Yeah. From when we made stories. So one of the things that I asked you to bring in was Eric's love interest.
Which works out perfectly because, spoiler, I have a hell of a battle planned
I
at
know.
the end. And that character is a necessity.
Yeah.
Needed a character like that. And then when you sent me those stats that you found, I was like, this is perfect. That's exactly what I needed. I don't want to say big dumb muscle because it's not big dumb muscle.
No,
but I needed tall, dark, and handsome.
Yes, you did. And I delivered him in
Yes,
such a
thank
golden
you.
package.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
yeah. By the way, Eric is gay.
Yes, he is. What do you, the player, want out of it? Do you want to get to a happily ever after as Eric?
I do. I want to see him
happy
with a happy ever after. Even if it's a tall, dark, and handsome gets him out of mortal danger at the last second and takes him away to a wonderful magical castle.
Yes. So you want a happily ever after.
I want him to have a happily ever
I'm
after.
going to make him struggle to get there.
And
that's assuming your character doesn't die.
Yeah, I know. Give me an item that I want and I'm pretty sure he'll do just fine.
Yeah. Mike and I were talking about that. He texted me this morning. And
yeah.
He's like, did anyone actually send you magical items that they wanted? And I'm like, yeah, one person, Therese. And then Nicole told me a sword in my backstory, but I wanted you to send me the actual item. She's looking at me, giving me stank face.
Yeah, I sent you a couple.
You sent me a couple. Do you want to know how many Mike sent me?
What?
I told him that I was struggling, and he sent me 40 items.
What?
He took screenshots and made me an album and sent it to me. So, thank you. But
hey, I limited how much I wanted because I was like, oh, everyone's gonna send you about 3 or 3.
I said
that was
3.
Yeah, you said 3.
Well, Mike sent me stuff for everyone's characters.
Oh,
He did the work for me.
Bless him.
Bless him. I could not do this without him.
I love playing this game with him. It's so much fun.
Playing this game. But so I guess I only have 2 more questions.
Okay.
From when you first started playing Dungeons and Dragons until now, how does it compare? Like, how did you feel playing it in the beginning versus how do you feel now?
Well, in the beginning, I started as a halfling rogue. named Blossom, who is actually active in Adric's campaign with us.
Yes, she is.
And I guess from like a then to now is then I was just learning, the basic rules and trying to understand.
Listen,
and
I'm still learning the basic rules, okay?
Yeah. But you're learning it as a DM versus just a player. So there's a whole lot of elements there for you. But, at first it was like, okay, yeah, this is fun. But it would sometimes be like a little like, because Adric was very battle heavy when we first started versus character development.
Yeah. Now, granted, we were also playing on a different system.
Yes, we were playing on the
4 or 3.5.
3.5, like a mesh of 3.5 and 4.
Yeah, we weren't playing with like official rules. And honestly, 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons was the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
It simplified a lot of things.
Most D&D podcasts I listen to say 5th edition just made learning the game that much easier.
It's way more player compatible.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you throw in tools like D&D Beyond.
Oh, yeah.
Like having that, granted, you can't, it's the customization.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing compares to actually like writing up your character on a sheet. That's fun.
Oh, yeah.
But there are tools that make it easier.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, definitely the tools that we have access to now compared to then, so much easier. And even though I love playing like my halfling rogue, I've also been really enjoying getting into like the magic caster.
Yeah.
Like categories.
It's a different level.
It really is, because there's a difference between like, okay, do I have line of sight? Are they within range? Okay, I'm gonna shoot them. I'm gonna hide behind a tree. Or because I'm a halfling, I could hide behind anyone who's taller than me.
Yep.
So that was, or if I wanted to or needed to, I could walk between people's legs at no disadvantage for movement through a square. Like that was a lot of fun.
So since you've played I'm going to term this as a melee character and a magic character, anyone who's just starting, would you say avoid magic?
Avoid magic.
Start with a melee character?
Start with a melee, ranger, rogue, or fighter. Like ranger and rogue, you get distance, which is nice, especially if you're just beginning. Fighter, if you like to be right up front and punch people in the face. But as you get more comfortable with melee fighters, you can introduce a secondary class. I would recommend like bard or something easy. Bard or cleric, easy.
Multi-classing is not something I recommend for beginners. Learn your class first.
Well, the only reason I'm saying multi-class is because I've got the experience now.
You do have the experience now.
But I'm saying, like, if you want to get into it, only do like 1 or 2 levels of like a bard or a cleric, where you can do base heal or base like buff. Sounds like Paisley is having Paisley moments.
Yes, it's not a podcast without her having moments.
Mm-hmm.
So I have one final question for you.
Okay.
Would you ever consider running your own session? Not necessarily a campaign, but would you ever consider running a session?
If I found like a decent one-shot, like I think that's where I would start. Like just running a one-shot, seeing how I do. Of course, I would want to have you and Adric and Mike and Nicole and Andrew and Mom. Like, I want a group.
Someone you're comfortable with, so that way.
And then if I'm going, I don't quite know what I'm doing, Adric, Mike, and Cena, can you guys help me?
I still ask for help all the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. And that's kind of like what's real nice is that Adric's been a DM for years. So he's pretty familiar with the rules, and Mike just read all the books for the sheer fun of it.
Mike has encyclopedic knowledge of Dungeons and Dragons, and it's sickening. sickeningly awesome.
I was about to say sickeningly amazing.
Yes.
It really makes very interesting like campaigns and stories, especially when you're like, hey, am I able to do this? And Edric's like, I don't think so. And Mike goes, actually you can. and when they both go, yeah, it's how you want to run it.
I love and hate when they tell me that. I'm like, just tell me what to do.
I know. Sometimes I like to just be told what to do.
So along those notes, thank you for coming on to Nerd Questing, Therese/Eric. It's been pleasurable. And lastly, who's your daddy?
You're my daddy.
You've been listening to Nerd Quest, a Wife Wednesday Radio Network production. Our executive producer is Dustin from the Lead Up Studios team in St. Louis, Missouri. Be sure to like, follow, and share us with your friends on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and more by searching Wife Wednesday. You can find Nerd Questing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more.